Good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome you at the final conference, Trust in European Democracies project. We meet today to discuss one of the most fragile and vital elements of our democratic life, trust. Of course, we don't meet to lament its erosion, but we want to discuss how to strengthen the bridge between policymakers, between institutions and citizens. And of course, we as citizens, we would like to help them to build it. Three words that we put into our topic, so dialogue, participation, and inclusion. They remind us that trust, or the process of rebuilding trust, is rather slow, is rather imperfect, and it's based on relation between citizens and between politicians. Policymakers should prepare their policies not for the citizens, but including them in the whole process. That's why this conference brings together not only researchers, but also politicians, policymakers, and citizens to share their experiences and to build this bridge I mentioned in the beginning. Thank you for having you here. Thank you for lending your minds here. And I would like to underline that all of your ideas, all of your comments are very welcome during 4 of our current panels. Thank you. And now I would like to give the floor to Professor Tomasz Pietrzykowski, Vice Rector for International and Domestic Cooperation of the University of Silesia, to give you some opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Agnieszka. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my enormous pleasure to welcome you to the University of Silesia on behalf of our entire academic community, some of the best members of which you already know, namely Agnieszka, but our community is really, really glad that you are here. And I'm personally satisfied that this meeting is taking place here in Katowice at the University of Silesia for at least 2 reasons. The first is that, as Agnieszka mentioned, I'm responsible for international collaboration at the University of Silesia, and what better kind of international collaboration you can have than the meeting of outstanding scholars coming to the university to mark the success of the research, international research project. So I'm really proud of our participation in this enormous grant, and we are looking forward to reading the published results of your investigations. And the second reason is more personal. I'm, besides being a vice rector, I'm by profession researcher in philosophy of law, so in a pretty close discipline, if not neighboring to political science. So I'm really excited to see the title and the topic of your research grant. And besides of words of welcome and compliments, believe me, I would be really, really glad just to join you to discuss, let's say, the merits and the substance of the project for the rest of the day, which unfortunately I cannot do. And no worries, I'm fully aware that it is not so easy to get involved into the group of experts, international experts in that, so I'm not going to make any embarrassing proposals just to join the discussion, you know, from outside. But nonetheless, I can't wait to see the outcomes, the fruits of your research grants, and please let me in advance congratulate you for everything that you have done. And once again, thank you for coming here, for accepting University of Silesia as a partner in this project. I hope that it is just the beginning of the long-term collaboration in many other projects as well. Thank you very much, and thank you, Agnieszka, for bringing all such distinguished scholars to Katowice, to our university. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Excellency, for your kind and supporting words. My name is Haerpfer, and I'm the coordinator of this project. And we are pleased to be here in Katowice. And I like Poland a lot. I spent many conferences in Warsaw. When I was young, a student, I was skiing in Zakopane. And so I think it's a very good location to have the final conference of our research program.
Thank you, Christian. Now we would like to present you final findings of our work packages. So first, Christian, can I give you the floor for some opening remarks for findings?
Okay, thank you very much. So who are we in a nutshell? We don't fit into a nutshell, but we can make a clear picture of what we are doing. First of all, we are together for 3 years. That's the interesting news. And we started in January 23, and we will end next month. So we are in November, 6 weeks to go. And then this means we're very busy writing all the reports and so on. And we got roughly 3 million euros from the European Commission, and we used it in a very productive way, I think. And we are part of the program called Horizon Europe. And we have many sister projects on democracy, different items in the current political debate of the European Union. So our objective is to have evidence, so we are based on facts, qualitative facts, quantitative facts. So we are producing many databases which will be available from next January for the scientific community. So we are producing a public good. We are not a private company having secret data. Everything will be available in open access. And we want to explain political trust in European democracies in all member states of the European Union. And we also have a cooperation with Ukraine. Because Ukraine is a candidate country of the European Union and helps a lot in our project. So we want to describe trust. Then we want to explain what is the trust and who is trusting and who is less trusting. And we want to have a scenario of trust, how this trust area will develop in the next years to come. What is the pathway of trust in Europe? And we want, our project is not a blue sky project like the European Research Council, it's an applied project. So we are supposed to produce toolbox, recommendation, policy briefs for our policy actors, for the European Parliament, for the European Commission, for our national governments, our regional government. So we are sort of policy advisors. We are scientists telling the politicians what could be done, what should be done, but not in a bossy way. We just explore the options and talk to the politicians about it, and then the politics has to respond to it. But as you know, experts are not politicians. We are not doing it. We are just telling them what can be done, but then the final decision is with the European Parliament and with your national governments in the member states of the European Union. So we want to explore these policy options. We want to improve inclusiveness, representation, and trustworthiness. So what our new innovation is, we don't talk about trust per se, we talk also about how trustworthy are the governments, the presidents, etc. We have 12 work packages which are addressing domains of trust about political system, electoral system, voting, democratic innovations, political culture and society, values, national cultures, polarization, social economic system, socio-economic transformations, migration, and the environment of information, media and social media. So it's a very broad project, and we have 12 teams who are analyzing different aspects of this program. We will produce a rich database. So we will, in next year, present a big database on voting in elections. We produced a big survey with 30,000 respondents in 24 countries, what people in Poland, in France, in Austria, in Sweden think about trust, and we use it for analysis. And this database of roughly 30,000 citizens in 24 countries will be available next year to the whole community. Every researcher in Greece, Bulgaria, Sweden can take the data, analyze it, and can talk with us about this. And which is an innovation, we have also a qualitative database. So we think just the survey data alone is not enough. We need also qualitative in-depth data which are explaining some things which are the quantitative data. So we believe in triangulation. We don't think just, I'm a survey researcher, but I think without qualitative research we cannot produce meaningful results. Because then we have just figures and say, what is the figure meaning, without knowing the reasons for that. So if you want to explain social change, political change, you need a rich qualitative methodology, and I think we have very good teams here doing this. So it's normally the quantitative people and qualitative people don't join the same lift. They say that they are different people, we don't talk with them. But in our case, I think we managed to have both groups in one boat, and hopefully good results. So we're producing 26 reports which are addressing aspects of trust, trustworthiness, and trust building in different settings and domains at the European Union level, at the national level, at the regional level, at the local level. So we are moving from these different levels and see which levels are better in getting trust citizens, which are not so good getting this. So we are producing policy recommendations and a toolkit about innovations. So if you want to have innovation, what are you doing? What is your box? Which activities are doing for this? And we are producing for schools material in political education. So if you're a teacher in a secondary school and talk about democracy and trust, you can take our tools, which are available for free, and use it in your teaching process. So that's basically what we are doing, and all teams are here, and we worked very hard. In the next 6 weeks we work even harder because we have to finish all these reports. So we don't have much time to prepare for Christmas. We have to finish everything in time. Okay, who are we? You can see this is our distribution of the team. We have 12 teams. 11 from European Union countries and 1 Ukraine. Let's start, it's not in the order of importance, it's just on the screen. The first one is Czech Republic, Professor Ladislav Čabada. That's the Metropolitan University in Prague. It's a very strong team in Czech Republic. Then the excellent team of Leuphana University, University of Lüneburg, Professor Welzel, who is here and will give a keynote speech here. Then in Grenoble we have Sciences Po and Grenoble University, Professor Frédéric Gauthier. And Professor Céline is here to represent this French team. Then we have University of Ljubljana, and in Italy, University of Salerno, Professor Mandarone. And then we have in Sweden Professor B. Puranen from Picopan. And now we have University of Silesia in Katowice, Professor Agnieszka. And this is now the location of our final conference. The Ukrainian team is in Kharkiv, in Karas University in Kharkiv. The team from Slovakia is at Comenius University in Bratislava. And the coordinating team is the Institute for Comparative Survey Research. Xenia Kiselova is the manager, and Claudia Palt and myself. Then the famous team from Romania, Bucharest, Professor Claudio Tufis is also here. And then we have Greece, Professor Socrates, Koniodos. So these are the 12 teams. But we are cooperating with Canada and other countries. But this is the core team, so to say. Okay. Now I would like to give the floor to Professor Welzel, the National Director for Germany and one of the master brains of our project. Chris, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Christian. It's a great pleasure to be here, and thanks for University Śląski for hosting us in such a splendid manner. So I'm the leader of Work Package 4, which is conducted together with Agnieszka and Bipuranen and Peter Wielander. And our goal was to discover what is going on in terms of the trust dynamics related to social cleavages. How did they develop over time in the different European regions of the EU 27? Let's say Mediterranean South is different from post-communist East, is different from the Western core, which again might have different dynamics from the Scandinavian North. So those are the 4 geo-historic regions we were looking at each by each. And there is kind of one narrative that tries to explain why we have an increase of populist vote and democratic backsliding. And the narrative goes something like this. We have since the early 1980s, since Thatcherism and Reaganomics, increasing income inequalities in countries. So the income scissors was opening, bigger divisions along socioeconomic terms between rich and poor, a middle class shrinking is one narrative, plus greater cultural divisions by in-migration from people from other countries who bring in a different cultural background, especially from the Middle East or the MENA region. So, and then the conclusion from this would be that on the different cleavages that we have in post-industrial modern democracies over, well, classic left-right, welfare state versus free market, migration, nativism versus cosmopolitanism, let more people in, be welcoming or chase them out. Sexuality matters. Are you in favor of wokeness, LGBTQ+, or less abortion rights, and so on? And also ecological cleavage. Are we in favor of environmental protection or job preservation? So we looked throughout all those 4 regions and every country by country, and what we didn't find is any incidents, absolutely nothing, about increasing class differences on those cleavages. So no incidents for polarization. So the narrative that because socioeconomic inequalities got bigger and that led to value polarizations, and that then the ones who are at the lower end of those polarizations, let's say more conservative, reactionary, cultural backlash, are the ones who now in truckloads go to the polls to vote for right-wing populist parties, just doesn't hold. One of our key conclusions of this is we also don't see a very clear trend in terms of the trust development. There is no generic decline of trust, institutional trust. We have a decline in most Southern European countries, so Mediterranean, because understandably they went through very strict austerity policies, mostly with sometimes social democratic or center-left parties in government who had to enforce this against their own ideological identity. Then we have the post-communist East. Also there we see mostly decline. But in Scandinavia and in the Western, Northwestern core, actually increases of political trust. So what we see is a little bit of a polarization between the different European regions in terms of the trust pattern, but we cannot say there is a generic decline of political trust throughout Europe or throughout Western democracies. So our key conclusion is that the problems of democratic backsliding and rising populist votes is not on the demand side, it's not on the side of the citizens, and that their opinions have shifted in a more racist, more xenophobic direction. We just don't see this. The problem is on the supply side. The elite has decoupled itself, the media elite and the political elite, from the population. And it's quite obvious, 99.9% of politicians and of journalists have a university degree. This is not representative of the population. And our analysis or diagnosis is that they pushed a over-liberal, progressive agenda in terms of gender, language, wokeness, even center-right parties joined into this, that left indeed part of the population behind. So what happened is a true representation deficit. And what happened is not that you get voters from other parties into the populist camp. Many voters, we already saw this with declining voter turnout, went into the camp of non-voters. What the populists managed to do is to remobilize them back into voting. It's a mobilization phenomenon. It's not a polarization phenomenon. This is what we see in our project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. The next speaker is Professor Socrates Koniodos from Greece.
Thank you very much. I'd like to start by mentioning my colleagues in the Greek team. It's Nikos Demergis, Dimitris Sotiropoulos, Anastasia Kaffe, Angeliki Fadi, Kostas Kanelopoulos, and Nikos Klironomos. If this is all Greek to you, it makes sense. Okay. I'm Socrates Koniodos. We were tasked to explore the role of socioeconomic transformations in shaping or reshaping European democracies. And we set out to investigate three of these related to political trust and democracy. The first one is the COVID-19 pandemic, the other one is the migration flows into Europe, and the third one is the digitalization of work. With respect to the pandemic governance and trust, our key finding is that COVID-19 effects on trust are mixed. High political trust and compliance coincide with positive evaluations of crisis management and health service performance. Policy recommendations include the need for transparent decision rationales, consistent risk communication, and dependable service delivery. With respect to migration and trust, key findings include that institutional trust tends to be higher alongside more favorable immigration attitudes, and the association between the two weakens under high salience and contestation. Policy recommendations include fair and timely procedures, adequate administrative capacity, and inclusive factual public communication. With respect to digitalization of work, our main finding is that robotization of routine tasks and platform-based algorithmic management increases insecurity and perceived surveillance, reinforcing perceptions of unfairness and reducing public confidence. Recommendations are to control the control of algorithmic management, explainability, data protection, and that of workers' rights too, and enforceable labor standards. Overall, trust tracks democratic economic satisfaction. High satisfaction with government and democratic associates, with higher distrust in national political institutions, with strength varying by country. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Socrates. Now we invite the team from Italy, from the University of Salerno, Professor Domenico Madalone. Grazie.
Thank you very much. I am Domenico Maddaloni from the University of Salerno, southern Italy. The other members of my team were Felice Addeo, Angela Delli Paoli, and Domenico Fruncillo. Our work focused mainly on the relationship between trust, various types of trust, among other variables, and electoral behavior, focusing mainly on voter turnout on one side, and electoral volatility on the other. Electoral volatility, that is, the voters' propensity to change their preferences from one election to another one. And here's our main results. We studied more specifically national differences in voter turnout. Well, the country differences in voter turnout as regards national elections are affected by social trust, that is, trust in interpersonal relationship, where this is, I have to say, a well-known result in sociological literature, because this kind of trust fosters the propensity to create voluntary associations, and through this to foster democratic engagement. On the other side, political trust does not play a key role in as regards national elections, but it does as regards European elections. That is, countries in which there is more widespread trust in European institutions do show a better voter turnout. Regarding electoral volatility, the main variable that relates to trust is government effectiveness. Government effectiveness in the sense of rules, anti-corruption rules, or say rules affecting transparency or the capacity of the government to deliver what they promise in the electoral campaign is very important in affecting electoral volatility. From this, we can draw some policy implications. First of all, as perhaps Christian Pelzer said before, the variable that always affect electoral behavior is the strength of economic inequalities. So policies aimed at reducing economic inequality have not only a social goal, but also can be seen as a tool to foster democratic participation. A second policy implication is to improve government effectiveness, because this can stabilize the electoral volatility, and this can ensure policy delivery and foster stability in an era of political fragmentation. And third, to reconnect citizens to European elections through a better communication, and more specifically through democratic mechanisms of participation that may involve European citizens in European policies. You will find more particulars on our work in the poster that we prepared for this event. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Domenico. And the next presentation is from Prague, from the Czech Republic. Yes, Jakub, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning. First of all, when introducing the research teams, Christian mentioned Ladislav, the leader of our team. Unfortunately, Ladislav cannot be here with us because family reasons, but he asked me to convey his regards to you. So, this is why I'm here instead of Ladislav, who was the main presenter for our team through the whole process. Okay, the other members of the team are Petr Just, he is not here today, and in the very beginning the member of the team was Alexandra Kovalevska, who left the team during the project, and now the new member of the team is Daniel Shaharovec, who is here with us today. Okay, let me say a few words to our work package 5. The objective of our working package was to explore the dynamic relationship between political trust, between emerging political cleavages, party system polarization, and political trust, focusing specifically on how ideological party polarization affects trust in political institutions such as the government, parliament, and political parties. The researchers indicated that the rise of political polarization has reflected the set of new and realigned cleavages, and that the average polarization of the European party systems is increasing slightly over time, with the quality of political system, welfare and quality of life, and the societal identity appearing to be the drivers of this upward trend. However, the initial expectation that greater overall party system polarization reduces political trust is not supported at the macro level. Instead, effects depends on the issue domain. These findings have yielded several partial recommendations for specific domains, namely that policies should prioritize compliance with rules, procedural restraint, and shared transparency standards, that policies should prioritize substantive programmatic competition without stigmatization, along with the protection for channels for responsible competition, and at the same time, policy should prioritize responses focused on specific domains over general efforts at depolarization. Thank you very much for your attention, and I will leave the floor for the Slovak team.
Thank you very much, Jakob. This was the Czech team. Now we move to Bratislava. Professor Babos, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. My name is Pavel Babos, and of course the Slovakian team is a bit larger just than I, but not everybody could come. Anyway, they send regards as well. In our work package, we focused on studying social media, how politicians behave on social media, how people respond to politicians, and how it all comes together. With particular focus on how using social media as a source of information form the judgments of trust. And very briefly, what we found out. First, politicians use social media as a tool for one-way communication. Long years ago, there were high hopes that the social media could be used as some kind of new tool for political participation and communication, and that politicians would respond to people. We see this is not happening. If you look for a politician, high-profile politician that would respond to comments on his profile, you wouldn't need more than your two hands to count the instances of this happening. So how about people? Do they use social media in expected way to politically participate, to communicate reasonable or rational messages to their politicians? We don't see this happening either. Numbers are very low, and the average in 12 European countries that we studied is between 2 and 3% of people who behave in the way that we could say they are politically participating or civically engaged on social media. So how it all comes together, the social media or using social media as a source of information is recalibrating the way people are forming their trust judgments. And what we mean by that is that while previously or the heavy users of traditional legacy media still give high importance to rational factors such as politicians' competence, the performance of governments, public policy outputs, or integrity, impartiality with which politicians govern the country. The heavy users of social media, or in other words, people who rely on social media very much, they put much more importance on irrational factors like identity, authenticity, and stage-like performance of politicians on social media. This has consequences for the quality of democracy because this undermines the basic accountability principles. And what we see, this is also amplified in countries where even political elites are spreading disinformation or hate speech on social media, unfortunately in countries like my own Slovakia. So this is some brief results. You can see some graphs also on our poster, and I am willing to answer any other questions and go into further details if you wish so.
Thank you very much, Pavel. This was our team from Slovakia. Now, Professor Céline Belot, please have the floor about France.
Thanks a lot, Christian. Good morning, everyone. So I'm not the leader for the French team, as you saw in the image before. Frédéric Gontier, his flight was cancelled and he couldn't come. And so sorry for that, but I hope I will present our work as not as good as he will have, but anyway, but that's why I have notes as well, not to forget everything. What we will presenting is the main finding for 3 reports, which examine how democratic innovation can help rebuild political trust in Europe. And by democratic innovation, we mean institutional mechanism that expands citizen involvement in public decision-making beyond election, aiming to make democracy more responsive, transparent, and trustworthy. And this innovation generally fall into 2 broad families. That is democratic innovations such as citizens' assemblies, citizen juries, or deliberative panels, which foster dialogue, mutual understanding, and reflection before decisions are made. And second, direct or participatory innovations such as referendum, participatory budgeting, petitions, or digital consultation platform, which gives citizens a more immediate influence on outcome. And each of these different democratic innovations, they seek to rebuild trust, but through different paths. The first deliberate forms cultivate process-based trust, grounded in fairness and voice. While direct form cultivate outcome-based trust, grounded in visible responsiveness. So what in our 3 reports, which results are summarized in the poster you find there in the lobby, we address a simple question with a complex answer. Under what condition can democratic innovation foster warranted trust? So trust grounded in evidence of responsiveness rather than disappointment or cynicism. So at the first stage, we propose a state of the report focused on micro and micro drivers trust. And at the core of the micro mechanism lies political efficacy. That is how competent citizens feel, internal efficacy, and how responsive they perceive institutions to be. So that's external efficacy. And participation in democratic innovations affect trust mainly through this efficacy feedback loops. When citizens feel listened to, respected, and see results reflected in policy, participations increase both efficacy and trust. But when experiences reveal tokenism or low impact, the opposite occurs. Participation fuels disillusionment and distrust. And so this relationship is highly conditional. It depends on people's prior orientations. Those who already feel politically capable, critical but confident citizens, they gain trust. Those who feel powerless or alienated often exit more cynical. And the poster central diagram illustrates this dynamic. Design and context we find are important as well. Criteria such as duration, transparency, and clear links to decision-making are essentials. Innovations that visibly feed into policy, such as participatory budgeting with real budgetary impact, tend to generate sustained trust gains, and conversely, short symbolic or elite-driven exercise often do more harm than good. So building on this report, what we did a second report in the form of a catalogue of democratic innovations, which mapped over a large number of initiatives across Europe, and that's really available free. The key finding is that deliberative innovation and direct innovation are complementary rather than competing. So as it turns out, the most effective innovation are hybrid. They combine deliberation and decision, reason giving and responsibility taking. And so we then did a third report and turns this insight into practical guidance for policymakers and practitioners, and its message is straightforward. Democratic innovation can only strengthen trust if they become routine, consequential, and transparent. So we identify 4 guiding principles. That is sustainability, so you must secure resource and continuity beyond single electoral cycles. Hybridization, so you must combine deliberative, consultative, and decision-making mechanism consistently. Impact evaluation, you must monitor and publicly communicate what participation change, and transparency, ensure equality of access and visible accountability for outcomes. So in this third report, these principles are translated into targeted recommendations, and so we invite you to read this report. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup. And now the next presentation is from Slovenia, Professor Krasovec. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Yes, my name is Alenka Krasovec, coming from University of Ljubljana, and other team members are also here. So Damian Lajh, Meta Novak, and Anja Kolak. Within our work package, we have summarized the findings actually of other colleagues and from their built policy action and recommendations aimed at strengthening inclusion, increase participation, trust building, and establish or re-establish dialogue and cooperation between institutions and citizens. As a mechanism for rebuilding trust, we have especially, but not exclusively, turned to democratic innovations, which can have different forms, as it was already mentioned by Celine, from participatory budgeting to deliberative tools, but also direct democratic ways of decision-making, like referendums. However, effectiveness of these participatory processes depends on organizational form and contextual factors. Following the insights from the quantitative survey, interviews with representatives of civil society organizations, politicians and policymakers, focus groups with citizens, and consultative workshops with representatives of civil society organizations, we identified the main issues, problems, and challenges in implementation of these processes. We have developed recommendations in a way that we have first defined the general recommendations or recommendation on more abstract level. Based on more general recommendations, we have proposed several solutions that are not exclusive but are more complementary. For each solution, we have defined whether its implementation and impact can be observed in short-term, mid-term, or long-term. We have also proposed the most appropriate level for the implementation of each solution. So we can think about the different levels from the starting on a local level, going to the regional level, national, but also EU level. And finally, we have defined if the measure targets citizens or civil society or both. And it seems a more general precondition for successful implementation of democratic innovation is civic education and training for all types of actors. But someone cannot forget to ensure stable funding for democratic innovations and also personnel. And when opting for different forms of democratic innovations, political tradition in a particular country must also not be overlooked. Policy recommendations, including all these dimensions, are in more illustrative way presented in a poster, so here in a lobby, but also some recommendations are listed here on a monitor, on a PowerPoint presentation, but maybe I would just like to mention one recommendation, just maybe to see to see our logic, how we organize these policy recommendations. For example, if a general recommendation is civic education and training, we identified several possible solutions. One, for example, is formal and informal education for young people. So this is a measure targeting citizens. It is a long-term measure, and the most appropriate level for implementation is regional and national level. If we are still within this recommendation on civic education and training, also trainings for civil society organization are mentioned. Usually we speak about citizens and civil society organizations. There are some actors that are supposed to be, let's say, educated, but our research actually showed that also civil servants and politicians need some trainings, simply because they have to organize, or they're responsible for implementation, they're supposed to organize this process, or they are responsible for implementation of these processes. For example, this is identified as a midterm measure, and for example, level of the implementation, the most appropriate level for implementation is, according to our recommendations, regional and national level. So I'll stop here because there are so many other policy recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Katowice. Now we open the floor for Q&A. Who is chairing it? Are you chairing it? Okay. Okay, I'm happy to chair it. So now please, questions to our teams, complaints, statements. It's always difficult to break the ice. Yes. We need a microphone? Or? Yes, please. Thank you.
My name is Robert Radek. I'm from the University of Silesia. And I've got one question. Of course, thank you very much for the presentation. It was really inspiring in how many fields you tried to do the research just concerning trust. And I was wondering about one question. This was mentioned in your introductory speech and also in the last, when we think about building trust, yes? And there was mentioned something that you planned or organized some civic education, some lessons. And I was wondering if it was tested at school, or it is just a project, an innovation, and how it was constructed. It was constructed based on all the elements that was mentioned in all the spheres of the project, or you had some idea or plan how to build it, because educational systems are specific. And I was also a teacher. I had an opportunity to be a teacher in secondary school, so that's why I'm really involved in this aspect. And what I think it's one of the main problems and issues when we think about trust, and education is the key for building the trust, yes? And we should think about the process that is constant from being a small child, small citizen till the old person. And I think we should rethink how the model of education, civic education, should be constructed in Europe. So that's why I was wondering what was the method, is it tested, or there are some projects, and eventually have you tried to verify it, how it is now organized? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Which team was organizing this? The famous Romanian team. Yes. Thank you.
So thank you for the question. In short, the answer is we did not test it. We just developed these materials for grades 5 through 8, and we had the teams from the other countries giving us some feedback and instructions about how civic education is conducted in each of the countries that were members in our project. So we developed these materials that teachers could just take them and use them in their classes during their lessons whenever they teach about the institution. So the focus was on describing the key political institutions at the national level, at the international level. Sorry, I wasn't seeing you. The national level, the international level, and then adding some elements related to the evolution of trust. And basically, the idea was to have these materials as a starting element for a discussion that maybe is not always done in the classroom, that includes the component of trust. Because usually in the civic education classes, people learn about the institutions, but not always discuss about why people are trusting or not trusting those institutions. So that was the idea. I think Bogdan wants to here's the microphone, Bogdan.
We thought about them more like educational resources. They were all made similarly for every country, but then because I know of what you're talking about, all these differences between different systems, but then professors or teachers have the ability to adjust. The novelty, like Claudiu said, is that it's not just a very dry description of how the system works, but rather make it a bit more human by having some data about trust and maybe convincing or telling students that trust is something that comes with the political system.
One more thing that we added was we thought about them also as possible lessons plans. So we also had topics for discussions, exercises included in there, which of course each teacher can then adapt according to the needs of the class, of the students. Thank you again for that.
Thank you very much. Yes, the idea was very good about these party academies, because politicians also need some education. It's not only primary, secondary level, but also politicians should have some exposure to science. Then we have all these foundations, Ebert Foundation, Adenauer Foundation, Renner Institute, so we should really consider this to educate the politicians. I agree with you.
And civil servants.
And civil servants, yes. So that's an innovative approach, because until now I think all the children need this, but this is too narrow a concept, I think. Okay, so is there a hybrid, any question? So how are we time-wise? Okay, then we conclude this. What is the next step? Coffee break? Coffee break and poster, please go to the posters. If you're lucky, you'll see the author of the poster, and then you can ask him or her what the meaning of all this is. But have a nice coffee break. Thank you very much.